many times do you think you've said the word Hugo in this past year? Too many, I'm sure. Hugo describes everything about ourselves. How much money is in our pockets, where we live, how we spend our time, and especially how we feel.
Hurricane Hugo was not just another bad storm that blew through here. It meant a change of life for all of us, and it really altered our lives forever.
Many of us have recovered, gotten new things to replace what we lost. But too many of us are living as if that Category 4 hurricane just bashed against our windows last night.
Tonight, we revisit the people and places we looked at last year. How does it all look today? How are our friends and neighbors doing? We're not looking back, we're looking forward. We're not trying to conjure up horrible mistakes or memories, but rather to commemorate the strength of a community and of its people. We're trying to take this first anniversary of the Hugo disaster and to put it behind us, to learn from our mistakes and to be proud of who we are and what we rebuilt.
Hugo, we have come a long, long way is brought to you by your local Carolina Chevrolet Geo dealers, by Santee Cooper, public power owned by the people of South Carolina, by the Hugo Outreach Support Project, aiding South Carolinians in their emotional recovery from disaster, and by the Electric Cooperatives of South Carolina. We're for people.
We've come a long, long way. We've come a long, long way.
These are our memories of Hugo 1 year ago. Who can forget that Thursday afternoon? Each of us can put our own memories to these pictures. But we all share that fear of the unknown.
We do have hurricane warnings along the coast of...
Big wind on the way, Martin. Big wind.
Then the darkest night of them all, September 21st, 1989. The cold light of day. The unknown we had so feared paled in comparison to the reality of that Friday morning. Then, as church bells tolled, a new beginning. Fear was replaced by blood, sweat, and tears. Charleston's waterfront park, just a plot of land before Hugo, but now a beautiful place for Charlestonians to take their lunch, or for kids to splash in the water, or for tourists to take pictures. No one ever thought the tourists would come back. Downtown Charleston looked like a war zone, like it had been bombed out, and who wants to visit a war zone? Who wants to live in a war zone? But today there are places that look like they weren't even touched by Hugo. But are looks deceiving? Charleston 1 year ago, a jigsaw puzzle whose pieces scattered in the wind. But today, everything is in its place. The only metal filling the market these days is in rental cars packed with tourists. Just step outside and look. Old historic Charleston is new again.
I think all in all, the hurricane really kind of helped us because it gave Charleston a much-needed facelift. All these houses with fresher coats of paint, new ceilings, new windows, that kind of thing, really make it kind of a nicer, attractive, pleasing city to the eye.
You can't tell what's missing until your attention is called to the details. The last things to be mended after Hugo seem to be the Holy City's steeples. The four corners of law don't really exist anymore. The condemned courthouse breaks the symmetry. And just behind the four corners, the basket ladies weave their livings as they always did. At least one of them says things are not the same since Hugo.
Big difference, big difference.
You gonna be able to survive with your business, you think?
Well, you know, it take time and got to wait on the Lord.
We're healing. You can tell by the scaffolding holding up the downtown homes like splints. Residents competed with each other for contractors, and the contractors competed with each other for the millions of dollars in work.
So many outsiders have come into town. Have started work, taking people's money and shot the hell out of here. Now that's a lot of reason to see that.
It's terrible.
That's a terrible thing. And I'd like to get a hold of some of them. That's a lot of old ladies, a lot of old people, you know. That's bad.
The toys are set straight and the streets are cleared for the tourists to get by. It looks just fine, but we're missing something.
I'm not sure if it's a personal feeling because I am a Charlestonian, but I know that it's not the same. I know because I live here. Tourists may come in and think that everything's fine, but I know better. This is not the level that Charleston was on. We're not back up to standards as far as I'm concerned.
We've been ordered to leave the air by the Folly Beach Police. We've enjoyed staying on the air for you today in the math of Hurricane Hugo. This is Lynn Martin. We now leave the air.
You hear it from people that are just coming onto the beach, tourists and things, who've seen it for the first time, so they think it still looks pretty trashed up. But like I said, after seeing it every day for a year, it doesn't look that bad anymore. And comparing it to the day after, it looks beautiful.
But it looked so bad the day after, Cosmo Kinsey found the second story of his Folly Beach home on the ground.
I'll try to pick up the pieces and go on.
And pick up the pieces he did. 1 year later, the Kinsey family is moving into their new house, rebuilt on the same spot.
Today is our first day back, and it's been a long road, you know. When it first happened, and those first few days, it was like things would never be the same. But now it's like, you know, it's just keep on keeping on.
Today, work crews are helping many families to rebuild as contractors put on those finishing touches and families anxiously wait to get into their new homes.
It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of nerves and anguish over the whole thing, but we feel like hopefully within a couple weeks we'll get finished and maybe have an anniversary Hugo party out here when it's done.
Of the 300 homes that Hurricane Hugo destroyed, 65% are being built back. But when you look around, you still see an awful lot of destruction.
It's been kind of tough, but still with building permits, license fees and so forth, we're managing to hold our own. Even though it's, to say you hold your own doesn't mean that we're even. It means that the deficit isn't quite as bad.
In fact, times have been so tough, Folly Beach had to raise taxes 22% this year. Meanwhile, fear gripped the small island when one construction worker killed another and buried the body at the construction site.
It does bring in a certain amount of bad crowd, you know, but yeah, it hurts a little bit, but I guess you have to learn to live with it.
And since Hugo, they've been living with fewer tourists.
The fact that the homes weren't ready is the problem, but tourism has basically held its own because we've been able to feel what we've got to offer them.
One way or another, even in the dark times, there had to be that light at the end of the tunnel. Even though we couldn't see it, we knew it was there.
Mourning in Mount Pleasant meant digging out. Trees buried neighborhoods, smashed cars and trucks. Stores along Highway 17 looked like a looter's dream. But the worst news was beyond Mount Pleasant. The Ben Sawyer Bridge, the island's only connection to the mainland, was on its end. Thousands were left with no chance to return home soon or even find out if they had a home at all.
The situation is we used to live there and we don't know if we still live there or not. We don't know if the house is up or down.
Like many others, Wayne Lawrence set out on his own, but wildlife officials intercepted his boat and sent him away even before he had a chance to see if his house was still standing.
Martial law is imposed on these islands.
Had people been able to get over to the islands, this is what they would have found. Many homes destroyed, some gone without a trace. At a quickly called meeting, furious islanders shouted down National Guardsmen and booed Mayor Carmen Bunch, who refused to let islanders make their way home on their own. Several rainy days later, marine helicopters and ferries took shocked residents like Carl Tompkins to see their homes torn to bits.
There's one part, there's another part. Here's my kitchen.
Today, Tompkins' lot remains empty. He's eager to rebuild, but admits his life is not yet back in order 1 year later.
My wife and I were talking the other day. We were walking on the beach, and it's like we can't even recall, really, our life before Hugo. You know, it's like after Hugo is the only thing we have in our, you know, it's like that was a different lifetime.
The Ben Sawyer Bridge was eventually put back in place, and despite all the anger, voters re-elected Carmen Bunch, who says she'd handle it the same way all over again.
I wish I could have shown them and had imprinted in their mind what was imprinted in my mind when I arrived here at 6 o'clock the next morning after the storm.
1 year after the storm, the islands look beautiful again. Some homes are in obvious need of repair, but two lessons stand out for people here.
I will guarantee I won't be around for the next one.
We love it there. We love the Isle of Palms, and we love being close to the beach. That was the reason we moved down here from upstate New York, and we just love it here. So do I have any second thoughts? Not at all. I'm looking forward to being back there.
We've come a long, long way. We've come a long, long way. We've come a long, long way.
Last September, we took you beyond the damage to the peninsular city to the outlying areas north of Charleston. A year later, restoration of things like this multi-million-dollar crane show how complete the rebuilding efforts were here in the city. But as we retrace our steps to the outlying areas, we find that progress was not so dramatic. It was obvious in the days after Hurricane Hugo that the places hit hardest were north of Charleston, mostly rural areas with names like Alvin, Pineville, and Jordan, where the people were generally older, generally poorer, and with less help and fewer resources to fall back on. And for many, 365 days of recovery have yet to restore completely the losses of one terrible night.
And friends of ours' houses are gone, absolutely gone.
The coastal village of McClellanville was literally ripped apart by a 17-foot tidal surge last year, smashing houses and historic oak trees, nearly obliterating the seafood industry on which the town was dependent, and leaving costly trawlers and their crews high and dry. Where'd y'all spend the hurricane? You're kidding me. You were on this thing when it went up on land? Riding out a single storm is one thing, but riding out an entire season of oysters or shrimp is another. And hopes of recovery seemed as far-fetched as the scenes of furniture that lay in broken trees or schools of fish swimming on soggy lawns.
It's almost total destruction. I think that the houses that are standing have got a lot more damage than people realize. And of course, the total economy of the town has just been wiped out. The crab and shrimp industry is just completely gone. There's no facilities, no boats, nothing left.
While some mayors were standing before press conferences, Rutledge Leland was standing knee-deep in mud trying to help patch his town together. And even after millions have been spent to rebuild the village and its seafood industry, there's still a lot left to do.
Still people that have got real serious economic problems. We've got people that are working again, but they've incurred a lot of debt to get back to that position, and so there's still lots of problems, a long way to go for a lot of things. We're making progress, though. The shrimp fleet's working. Things are definitely coming back a lot a lot better than I really had hoped for.
In 1 year, McClellanville scenes have changed as dramatically as its recovery. The Lincoln High School emergency shelter that nearly became a death trap with floods that piled cars like pancakes is this year just a school again. Waterfront areas that were strewn with broken roofs and trawlers today are as pristine as if nothing ever happened. Streets that were accessible only by ducking under fallen trees have regained much of their former charm, but the gaps where big oaks once stood are still glaring. There are also more subtle contrasts from last year. Crooked church steeples have been set straight again. The infamous wandering emu has given way to other, more traditional birds. And from the complaints of being ignored a year ago, McClellanville now openly gives thanks to the generosity of outsiders who helped put the town back on its feet.
Still trying to pick up that signal, although there doesn't seem to be any sign of anything out here right now.
The coastal islands of the Cape Romaine Wildlife Refuge were hardly havens for flora or fauna a year ago and have been closed to the public ever since. Nature's wounds can't be healed with hammers and nails. It will take time. On places like Bulls Island, jungles of debris have been cleared enough to open service roads, but the decapitated oak canopy of a year ago has changed little among trees that will take decades to grow back. Wildlife that had to be searched for after the storm is more evident now, as are the unfortunate consequences of a ruined paradise. The key will be their ability to adapt, like these shorebirds whose numbers were depleted when some species didn't build nests high enough on storm-weathered islands to protect eggs from spring tides. Farther north, Georgetown County's expensive coastal real estate was rendered virtually worthless a year ago, and the prospect of completely rebuilding areas like this part of Pawleys Island did not seem to some entirely worthwhile.
Do you think Pawleys Island can come back? Will you come back and live here?
No, I would love to, but you know, if you look at this is not a summer resort anymore. Nobody's going to be here. It's going to take years to rebuild this place, and you know, the prices are phenomenal already. If anybody's going to rent a place, they're going to be scalped, number one. And number two, look at it. It's not reparable.
But in contrast to the windswept rubble of last September, this fall's breezes whistle through newly landscaped lawns and reconstructed houses. What's different here now than before the storm that particularly you noticed?
Pawleys Island was arrogantly shabby. It is no longer arrogantly shabby.
Now it's modern.
Now it's arrogant,
but not shabby. In Horry County a year ago, chances of attracting tourists back to the Grand Strand seemed literally gone with the wind.
You know, you can listen to the stories, whatever, but don't let them in unless they got proper ID.
But the digging out that began immediately after the storm went on all year, and the Strand has just completed another multi-million-dollar summer season. There are still signs of the storm here and there, but where huge tides swept everything away last year, people are building back, this time on higher foundations and behind rebuilt sand dunes anchored by rows of sea oats. Smashed cars, people's clothes and furniture all over the ground. Turning inland last year, the storm left a distinctive, destructive trail across rural Berkeley, Williamsburg, and Clarendon counties.
Evidently before they done any damage.
So you just got these tarps up here to keep the rain out, huh?
Yeah, the trailer's broken all the way over.
Near St. Stephen, we found Ruth Canali living with 3 fallen trees in her trailer. No electricity, no water, no insurance, and a shotgun by her bed, the only security.
It was rough, as I lived in a little small camper and I couldn't leave because I never knew when the guy from FEMA was coming or anything.
1 year later, she has a new trailer with FEMA money she got after the storm. She also has a new perspective on future hurricanes.
Another hurricane comes, I'm leaving. I'm leaving this old country. I'm going as far west as possible.
But others who lost trailers were not so lucky.
I didn't have nothing. I just worked long enough to pay for it, and this happened. That's my luck. This ruined me.
When Melvin Johnson's trailer near Cordsville was destroyed last year, he applied for and received FEMA money for a new one. But a local mobile home company took his money without delivering the goods. After living for months in a small shack, Johnson was finally able to buy a new trailer, but his FEMA money has never been returned. Just like anywhere else in the Lowcountry, the pieces are still being put back together in the rural areas. The wrecked small towns of a year ago have restored their wholesome look and easy pace. Shattered trailers that scattered the countryside have generally been replaced. Pathetic scenes of dead farm animals have faded with the restocking of new, healthy herds. Crops that were ruined with inches of excess water are back strong as ever this September, and people who are shocked by the extent of the storm's power.
That thing was a bitch. Lick and the wind blowing, it raining, it just lick. As if I die, I'm going to die right here in the house.
Are thankful this year for the roofs over their heads.
I think I'm glad I'm living because I could have been dead and I'd stay right here in my own house.
When we watched these people work to rescue a sick man near Pineville last year, it was evident that fallen trees would present a major problem well after the storm had passed, and initial assessments were gloomy at best.
We feel like now we're probably starting back like we were 50 years ago, and it's going to take probably another 50 years or longer to see it again like it was before the storm.
Cutting and clearing has continued throughout the year, turning most small highways into logging roads and piling up logs so high at mills and shipping areas that foresters say we could line up enough fallen Lowcountry timber end to end to circle the earth. At world-famous Cypress Gardens, the twisted trunks that were such a shocking sight a year ago have been cleared, and many strong trees survive. But gaps in the cypress canopy have allowed acres of weeds to sprout in formerly open waters, while banks of azaleas along garden paths have virtually disappeared, and the historic gardens are not expected to reopen until 1991. But there are more critical problems in our forests than aesthetics. Rotting timber still presents a major fire hazard, and although there's an official ban on burning throughout the Lowcountry, people continue to do it anyway. Here in the country, people need to clear their land, and fires like this are still everywhere to be seen. To make matters worse, many of the trees still standing are in danger, threatened by waves of pine beetles and termites that feast on dead and weakened bark. And many still show the signs of stress, such as this distinctive growth that indicates root damage. What has been lost and will be lost is expected to affect the timber industry, the state's third largest, for at least the next 50 years. And psychologically, the miles of broken trunks that still line rural highways are a constant reminder of how much work remains to be done. When we come back, we'll revisit the little man whose sad story captured our hearts a year ago. Pretty good. So even here we are in the countryside outside Manning. House in real bad shape, and here's a poor old fella who's obviously handicapped. It was just by chance that we happened on 86-year-old Milton Holliday outside Manning last September, and as we checked to see how he weathered the hurricane, he told us his wife of 52 years had died the night of the storm. Even as he told us his story, someone drove up trying to take advantage of Mr. Holliday by asking for $2,000 to help clear the debris from his house. But Mr. Mitt, as he's known in Clarendon County, is nobody's fool, and he was willing to try to clear the debris himself until volunteers, like the crew of the Charleston-based Alamogordo, drove to Manning to help him out.
Well, people have been good to me. I'm satisfied, in a way.
Throughout his long ordeal, Mr. Holliday was often alone, never asked for pity, and only once did we see his emotions show through.
I couldn't wait on her. She got so weak. So I had to put her in the hospital.
Today, Mr. Holliday's house has been completely restored, but his step is a little slower, he leans a little more heavily on his walker, and although he can laugh easily,
Don't take too many of my pictures, might break that thing.
he's still emotionally drained from the year he went through.
Well, it's been tough. I'm actually going back physically. Because I can't do as much as I did a year ago.
But this old frame still houses a stout heart, as evidenced by his reaction to a brush fire on his lawn this summer.
The power line tree fell on it, and he caught a fire. The fire was from no woods they jammed to that pole.
Almost get to the house?
No, I headed it off. You see, wasn't much out there but a little bit of dead grass. And I went out there to put it out with a broom, and as fast as you beat it out, it catch again. And it got to the edge of the woods. And I called the fire department, and they come put it out.
At 87 and partially disabled, daily life is not easy for Mr. Holliday, but he's always been self-sufficient and plans to stay that way.
I plan to see how long I live if I don't have to go to a nursing home. I got to go to Manning once or twice a week to get some groceries. And as soon as I fix a little something to eat and I'll clean up in that house a little bit, the day's gone. I'll keep trying. If you don't, you get through, you can't go at all. If you don't try to get out and take some exercise.
Although sadder and more compelling than most, Mr. Holliday's story is in many ways an experience shared by people throughout the rural areas of the Lowcountry. The losses cut deeply into shallow pockets that are everywhere still relatively empty today. But even more so, the stress and heartache of personal tragedies had to be borne more completely by isolated individuals. And at a time when it would have been easy to lose hope and strength, these people were strongest and continue to restore the outlying areas to the productive, hospitable land it has always been.
This is a picture-perfect day, the kind of day where the weather is just a backdrop and life seems good. But Hugo proved the weather could be a bitter enemy as well as a friend. Now, it wasn't just the storm, but the worries we had for months after Hugo. A friendly rain shower could cause massive damage from a leaky roof, and a crisp autumn day made us feel bitter cold as heat escaped through holes in the walls of our homes. This year, the weather punished us in a way we certainly didn't deserve. The beach was calm. The disaster of 3 weeks ago was just a background scene. But now another monster threatened. Unusually high tides were coming in. It was predicted they would get as high as 7 feet. Folly Beach residents feared the skeletons of their homes would finally be washed out and buried at sea. Army Corps of Engineers quickly abandoned their Hugo cleanup and started filling sandbags and hurriedly rebuilding the sand dunes. Folly Beach that Monday. The waves, thankfully, did not occur. But some people didn't wait around to see it through.
We talked to a few that packed up, didn't want to trust it, you know, and packed on up. They were expecting the worst, and knock on wood, so far we haven't got it.
There was some minor flooding, but residents weren't fazed by it after what they'd been through.
You have to expect it when you live at the beach. As I said, I've been here for a long time, and you expect this.
The blizzard started the night of December 22nd. The next morning, the blizzard was still raging. On Sullivan's Island, dogs romped and children played. Even the piles of Hugo debris looked harmless under the pure white blanket. It was hard to believe that this was the South. But it was no fun for people in Copiahe still struggling after Hugo.
The thing over here is no water right now, it's frozen, so. But I think these days tomorrow maybe I can get water.
It is catching hell in here. After Hugo and now this storm, we are frozen today, the water pump is frozen, and everything is, oh.
This family of 5 hadn't had electricity in their trailer since Hugo. They huddled around kerosene heaters for warmth. On Christmas Eve, the snow stopped, and people started having fun in the 8 inches of snow. It was Charleston's first white Christmas. But then the pipes froze, and again, there was no water.
That's how we had to get water.
It's been a regular hassle because we've had to go downstairs and get water from the neighbor.
I think that there's a lot of broken lines within people's homes, private property, and of course they're not calling us to have the water turned off because they want to have water.
The National Guard was called to Charleston again, this time to bring water. Hospitals were forced into a state of emergency.
We're without water, which supplies our heat. Due to the water, we have to have the steam.
In a few days, though, things began to thaw, and the water started flowing again. But the Lowcountry dried up again in the spring. Brush fires ate up acres of woods. Downed trees were tinder. Hot, dry weather the fuel. Controlled burns couldn't be controlled.
it's obvious this fire was placed in the wrong place to be burned to start with. It falls under the head, and the people have to be careful. There's still so much debris down that's going to cause hundreds of dollars worth of damage every time we have one of these.
You can almost count on a forest fire every day around the end of June and the beginning of July. Of course, everything comes full circle, and hurricanes started whipping up in the Atlantic again. And after this year, no one is complacent about the weather. People do believe that lightning can strike twice.
One thing that we've learned from Hugo is that life goes on. Maybe we didn't believe that at first, but we've all found some way to cope day to day. I think sometimes we just kind of put it out of our minds, but then we see that uprooted tree or the abandoned house, or we have those recurring nightmares, and all those memories are conjured up once again. For the moment, sure, we're all in one piece, but are we at peace?
We do with that a lot, but still we're sticking together.
For Hilda Dew, the hurricane left her life and emotions in tatters. Her husband's business was blown apart, and their North Charleston trailer home was damaged beyond repair. The family spent months in this little one-room shed. The children, Christina and Ryan, recalled even they argued.
We used to get in bad arguments, and we used to lock each other in the bathroom and stuff like that because we just didn't want to go in there.
But Hilda Dew wasn't going to let the stress and anger pull her family apart. She went to get some help. She talked to the people with the Hugo Outreach Support Team. Now she's learned how to handle her stress.
I have a big strength about me that I know that I wouldn't have all this here and be able to get up each day and go when there's times I feel like I don't want to go. But I just reach up and yell, God help, and he's on the scene automatically.
While Mrs. Dew has learned to cope, there are still many others who have not, and that could mean even more troubles ahead.
People can go on for an extended period of time and just sort of deny and be numb, but ultimately something's going to give. Either they'll become ill, they might turn to substance use or abuse, they might develop more and more problems in their work environment or with their families until there's a situation that just makes it essential that they seek help.
Not all of the work accomplished by the Hugo Outreach Support Team is counseling. They also act as a sort of information center, putting people in touch with relief organizations. That was the case for John and Alma Stucks. The Mennonites are building them a new home. But before they got the help they needed, the situation was pretty grim.
I feel bad, real bad, but I feel good now.
The Stucks lost everything in the storm, and after 30 years of living here, it was pretty rough. But thanks to support from a lot of people, the Hugo Outreach Program, the Salvation Army, the Mennonites, it seems their life has changed dramatically, and this time it changed for the better. They'll settle into a lifestyle the experts call a new normal. But this past year will not be erased from their minds. That'll be the way it is for all of us, especially when we see a disaster in another part of the world.
It'll be a part of our lives forever. At some point it won't be as painful, but there are going to be events that are going to recall this time and going to be very painful and bring us back. But what we have to understand is our feelings are okay. They're a part of us, and we acknowledge those feelings, and then we deal with them.
Emotional recovery from a disaster takes a year or two. The Hugo Outreach Support Team will be here to help us. If you need them, give them a call.
One way to deal with feelings that come with a hurricane like Hugo is to bounce back, show that it didn't get the best of you. Even people who had no connection with the Charleston area sent help.
Got everything at home, they don't have nothing here.
Other volunteers also made their mark. By mid-November, the Raise the Roof campaign had already temporarily repaired 300 homes in the Lowcountry. Almost 500 people turned out for a Thanksgiving community dinner in McClellanville. Many of them did not have homes or a job, but felt thankful to be alive.
I thank God to have something to eat, and thank God everyone's still living.
Because instead of the trees, it could have been us. But we get them out together.
With the Christmas holiday approaching, the city of Charleston went ahead and spent the money to put up the usual Christmas decorations, and the magnificent tree was a boost for us all. But many of us were spending money on rebuilding, which didn't leave much left over for gifts. So other communities across the country made sure that Santa came to town. Kids whose homes were destroyed by Hugo sent their Christmas wish list to a Tennessee credit union. And Berkeley County kids got a Christmas boost from 4-H'ers in Missouri who sent an 18-wheeler filled with toys, candy, and clothes. As we started the new year, work was still needed and help was still rolling in. The Citadel Square Baptist Church gave $3,000 to replant trees so the Charleston area would someday look the way it used to. In April, Lincoln High School in McClellanville was finally able to reopen. The school was flooded during the storm and closed for months while repairs were made. Sullivan's Island Elementary was rebuilt with the help of dedicated parents and determined school officials.
This is without a doubt one of the most exciting back-to-school events I have ever attended. Do you agree? Yeah!
After years of planning and a little setback in September, the much-talked-about Waterfront Park opened in downtown Charleston. It opened just in time to welcome visitors for the 1990 Spoleto Festival.
I'm very honored that your mayor has chosen the festival as a symbol of the rebirth, of the renewal of this city.
The 1990 festival brought in more tourists and money than ever before, another sign that Charleston was recovering from Hugo. On Sullivan's Island, residents held a party to celebrate rebuilding the community park on the old debris dumping site. And for the one-year anniversary of Hugo, Channel 5 is proud to be one of the sponsors of Life Fest, a weekend celebrating life and health and to remind us that good things did happen as a result of the storm. This will be a time to remember that when Hugo slammed into South Carolina, he only destroyed material things, not the strength and courage and determination of the people he left behind.
Did you ever think just a few days after Hugo you'd be where you are today? Well, a lot of the reasons for the way you're living right now is because of the leaders who guided us through the storm. And some of those leaders are rating their performances 1 year later and making plans to do better the next time.
I think that we did everything in an outstanding manner, and I put most of that on, give most of the laurels to the constituents who, when we said leave, they left, and that's why we did not have a tremendous loss of life.
Preparedness made the difference, but preparedness is an individual responsibility.
My goal, as I asked my staff, was first of all to be the best prepared city that it ever was, and then secondly to do the best job of recovery, and I think we and the citizens have done that.
But I think it went very well. I think everything went real well. We learned a lot, and that's probably the most important thing, is to put what you've learned back into practice now.
We've all learned more than we'd like to about the huge force of nature called a hurricane. But one thing we may not know, the storms are as different as a fingerprint. How would you get ready for another one? Would you stay or would you go? What has Hugo taught you? You may think that we all went through the same hurricane force winds, but that's not actually the case. Like here in Copiague, they actually experienced Category 4 winds and water, but the rest of us probably did not.
Luckily for the other 250 some odd thousand people, that was good. For them in Copiague, it was bad. If the storm had made landfall at Kiowa, then the historic district of Charleston would have looked like Copiague.
Clark says we were lucky in other ways. Lucky Hugo came through at night, so we weren't lured outside before it was over. Lucky it was fast-moving. It could have pounded us many more hours if it had tracked more slowly across the Lowcountry. And lucky we followed it for almost a week. We were ready.
In retrospect, the most important thing we did was a successful evacuation, and that's what saves lives. I do feel that if anything, we should even start the evacuation sooner.
The aftermath caught us all off guard. We now know to prepare better at home, getting the supplies we need: food, water, batteries.
When we say 2 weeks to 10 days, I think we mean it. At least that's what it took last time. We do know that since Hugo, a lot of the power lines are still not up to par. Every time we have the least bit wind, we lose them. So very likely another storm in the near future will produce extended outages and earlier outages.
And our government will know better how to help us.
If we testify before Congress, it may be that some legislative changes are necessary. But I think that they did learn, and I think that the response will be more Johnny on the spot now.
Yeah, there's people there.
We are rebuilding, and we're rethinking what we'd do differently if we had to do it all over again.
We prepared for this basically thinking the house would still be there. So we moved everything up into the upper floors and stored water and that kind of stuff. And we honestly didn't believe the whole house would go. So I think to do it differently, I'd take a few of my possessions with me next time.
Just as the Hanna family is coming back, so is the rest of the Lowcountry, and we're realizing now it will just take some time.
I think that we've all worked very hard and we've done extremely well.
It's the first anniversary of Hugo, and I'm sure in some way every family is commemorating the events of September 21st, 1989.
Now it's 1990, it's a new decade, and it's just what we needed to show us that there is always hope. This is the dawn. It's scary because we just don't know how it's going to turn out, but we do have our new dreams to take us from the darkness to a new day.
We can make our dreams come true. Let's all be proud of how much we've done. We're all heroes of Hugo.
As we move forward, Hugo will fade from our memories. It will always be something that moved us, made us strong, made us appreciate what we are, made us appreciate ourselves, and made us appreciate each other.
When the sun came up that morning, everything had changed. You could see it in the wake and the clearing. Nothing was the same, but you could look in the eye of your neighbor, deep down beyond the pain. People helping people, we'd be back again. So we picked